media is now telling you not to believe your lying eyes. If you've been watching with interest these video clips of President Biden with the G7, President Biden in Normandy celebrating the 80th anniversary of D-Day, President Biden at a fundraiser where they raised $28 million for the Democrat National Committee. He was accompanied by Jimmy Kimmel. He was on the stage with and Julia Roberts was there, and George Clooney was there, and you also had former President Obama there, and they all looked so nice in their suits and their outfits, and everyone's hair and makeup was perfect. And when they got up to leave the stage, you saw the President of the United States, the leader of the free world, the Commander in Chief of our U.S. Armed Forces, the leader of the executive branch. Shall I go on with his different distinctions? No, I don't have to. You know who I'm talking about. It's President Biden. He was leaving the stage, or he should have been, when he experienced a senior moment and froze up and was unaware of where he was. And if you were watching, we've seen this happen to him before. It's actually happening with increasing frequency. You see the president standing there and not leaving on cue. And so President Obama gingerly reaches over and taps the president on his arm and kind of grips it a little bit. President Biden looks almost relieved as he glances at former President Obama. And then he pulls him. Obama pulls Biden. And then Biden begins to move in the correct direction. And President Obama reaches around to his back and begins to pat him right between the shoulder blades at the base of his neck, patting him, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. They're walking off the stage. They're obviously conversing. Obama is laughing. It looks like two pals just exiting. But it's clear that if it weren't for the hand on the back, President Biden wouldn't be sure it's time for him to leave. So now let's talk about the reaction to that. Well, of course, media on the right, pundits, especially the meme crew, have taken to the internet to make fun of what happened. And the mockery and derision is a part of our political space. It always has been. You can look up all of the old articles where before social media existed, before technology was a thing, the mockery and derision was delivered in newsletters and newspapers. You would have the political opponents actually write articles and op-eds about their opponent, mocking them. So this is a part of our political discourse. But what isn't a part of our political discourse, what we have not seen except in the most recent modern politics of the last 10 years, is an attempt to make you think you don't see what you're actually seeing. It is obvious that President Biden is suffering from some form of dementia. To talk about it is to know that it's true because you've already seen it. It's not an issue of whether or not someone is deep faking us, as has been suggested by White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. But I want you to watch a proper response. One of my favorite people, Brian Lanza, he's former Deputy Communications Director for former President Trump's 2016 campaign. He was on CNN, and he was presented with the opportunity to join in the obfuscation, and he instead chose violence. Watch this.
I would say this. I think here's the challenge. It's not Joe Biden's age. It really is his cognitive decline. And it's not misspeaking, because everybody misspeaks on television. I do, you have. You people get nervous, and they even conflate decades. I'll give those things to Joe Biden. It's the fact that he can't find a door becomes a problem. Like, he goes to the podium and he has to be told where to go. He's going to the wrong doors. I'm sorry, maybe Obama and Biden do have this friendship, but to the average person looking at this, seeing this weekend's image of Obama having to guide him out, it reinforces what we already see. It's not that he misspeaks, it's that he appears lost on the national stage and lost on the international stage. And that's the challenge here. I mean, these people in the international stage have known Joe Biden for 40 years. You don't think they've seen the cognitive decline? We're being dishonest by saying it doesn't exist.
Is Donald Trump the same guy he was in 2016?
Sure, but he's not going through the wrong doors. He doesn't need help to get off the stage. That event that you saw took place, hold on, let me say, that event that took place this weekend, somebody was telling him minutes before he went on stage exactly what to do and exactly what to do to get off. It didn't happen. That's a cognitive issue.
Brian Lanza. He is an experienced communicator, and he refused to be interrupted or spoken over when he was making his points. Well done for him, and well done for the viewers who really are trying to make a decision about whether or not they'll go with the party line and tell everyone that they encounter that Biden doesn't have cognitive decline. Those are deep fake videos. It's not a deep fake to watch. Some people watch this live, and the video is still around circulating. If you go on X, it's actually in one of the trends right now. Also, people are beginning to repost a very, very significant moment that happened in the White House in the first year of President Biden's time in office. He'd actually just been inaugurated, and President Obama came by for a visit. And he and Kamala, who are best friends from days of old, he actually launched her career into national prominence when she was still an attorney general there in the state of California. He called her out as the future of the Democrat Party. And if you remember, most of us had never heard of her before that moment. So they have a long standing, long running friendship. And he and Kamala were moving along a rope line in the Yellow Room in the White House. And you had a number of individuals there to shake hands with former President Obama, who remains extraordinarily popular with Democrats and especially with kind of non-information voters. And so they were all in the White House having a good time. And President Biden, this happened in 2021, was reaching out to President Obama. He was behind the two of them. They were moving down the rope line, shaking hands, and he kept saying, Barack, Barack. And President Obama refused to answer him. It was the same as you see in the grocery store or at church right after service. A child is trying to get their parents' attention, and the parent is ignoring them because they don't intend on leaving anytime soon. And the child is asking when they can leave so they can go eat. They already know what the other one's going to ask and say. And so the parent ignores. Obama ignored Biden like he was a child. And he kept looking more and more confused and repeating Barack's name kind of feebly as they progressed down the rope line. Barack Obama is shaking hands and smiling and glad handing, and Kamala's doing the gun fingers that she's so famous for, and everybody's enjoying themselves except the leader of the free world, Commander in Chief of the U.S. Armed Forces, President Biden. So this has been going on for 3 years. And for Karine Jean-Pierre and other people in the media to try to convince you that you're not seeing cognitive decline when you may or may not have relatives or friends who have relatives who are suffering from the same ailment, they're elderly, they're moving along that continuum to their eternal reward. You understand what's happening to them. You're not confused by it, yet you're being told that that's not actually what you saw. That's a deep fake. What's deeply fake here is the fact that they expect you to believe them instead of believing what you can see. That they expect you to vote for someone who's in this condition instead of looking for a candidate that could actually woo you on policy and issues and things that matter to you, things that you're paying attention to, like your financial bottom line or your kids' education or your children being forced to be in what should be same-sex sports that are now multi-gendered sports because confused kids are changing in the locker room with your child and they have opposite body parts. All of these things, including immigration, which is a huge issue for Americans, are being ignored by the Democrats. And instead, they're putting on the bread and circuses clown show for you to look at. They're putting on a program that you're supposed to plug into and actually participate in instead of focusing on the issues that really matter to you, like your financial bottom line, like the economy, like jobs, like immigration. So I'm telling you, don't listen. You are not required to participate in the delusions of any other person. If a person tells you it's a deep fake, you can say, I saw what happened. It wasn't fake. And thank you so much for your time. You don't even have to spend a moment talking to someone who thinks they can convince you that you've seen something that you haven't seen. You're not the one who's mentally ill. You're not the one who's lying. And you don't deserve to have to put up with that nonsense any further. Mama Stacy, just somebody's mom on the radio and television, gives you permission to drop the truth and walk off. Treat it like a bombing mission. You're the F-16, you're going to drop the payload, and then you're going to use the fuel left in your wings to get the H up out of there and back to your regularly scheduled programming, which is not believing lies and listening to people try to indoctrinate you. You're grown and you don't have to put up with it.